Hey guys, what's up? And welcome to a new video. And something really insane happened yesterday that was not on my 2025 bingo card. Valve just dropped a nuke, basically. They announced that the Steam machine is coming back. And let me just tell you, as a hardware enthusiast, that made me really excited. So if you are not familiar with it, this is not Valve's first attempt at a Steam machine. Back in the day, they also made something very similar. Well, actually, very much the same to compete with home consoles, a PC that was made to be played on on the couch, called the Steam machine. And the idea behind a Steam machine was that every manufacturer could make a Steam machine, because the only thing that Valve then produced were the Steam controllers and the Steam OS. Yes, Steam OS didn't came first with the Steam Deck. There was a version that came before it, and that looked very much like the old school big picture mode. It didn't really succeed, and here is why. Back in the day, Linux gaming, it was there, but it also wasn't there. Linux had like a really small market share, so a lot of developers would focus on Windows because that would be, really attractive to release your games on, because everybody had a Windows PC. Not a lot of people, except for maybe hardcore nerds or people that grew up with using Linux, had a Linux distro. So not a lot of games were on that platform, so the incentive to buy a Steam machine, it was quite low. Valve did put a lot of effort in it though. They released their own games on Linux, and made it like dedicated ports. For example, Counter-Strike was available on there, as well as Team Fortress 2 and I believe Half-Life, but I am not really sure. However, due to the lack of support from game developers, the Steam machine as a concept failed. And one of such Steam machines actually was the Alienware Steam machine. And it came shipped with Steam OS and I believe also the Steam controller, but I'm not sure. And it came also shipped with the first ever iteration of the Steam controller, which used one joystick and something very innovative, two trackpads that you can find nowadays back on the Steam Deck. But unfortunately, due to the lack of support for the Steam machines, or for games on Linux in general, the Steam machine never really took off. And I think one of the most popular hardware devices back then was not really the Steam controller, but it was like popular enough that, everybody know about them. But it was actually the Steam Link, the device that I currently have probably in a drawer, that can stream PC games to your television. And so the Steam machine didn't sell really well, and unfortunately got discontinued, and we didn't saw another Steam machine project or something like it until the Steam Deck released, a handheld PC console, which oozes the DNA of all the three previous Valve hardware releases, like the Steam Link, the Steam controller, and the Steam machine. Because basically it came with like Steam OS 3, something that was running on like the Steam machine. It is a PC, it's a handheld. You can take it with you, and you had those little trackpads that that like the Steam controller with. So it was almost like the Nintendo Switch with like every DNA of like previous consoles crammed into this one small form factor handheld device. And I own one. It's fucking amazing. But a true Steam machine, I never thought of seeing, but I was still wondering, right? I was still wondering if it was going to be released, or if we would get something similar to the Steam machine and the Steam controller. And I think many of people were wondering, like, hey, Steam Deck is really going well. So when are we going to see maybe a Steam machine? And we finally got our answer. So Valve yesterday announced like 3 new devices. And let's start first with like the big thing, the big elephant in the room. The Steam machine, or by the internet as of now as the GameCube. And I really, 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 really agree with that. So Valve brought back the Steam machine, a in-house manufactured PC box console thingy that I think they had the vision for back when they were like launching the Steam machine itself in, what was it, 2015. It looks awesome. The idea that that we are getting a Steam machine again is really, really cool, and also a huge bonus if you think about it for Linux gaming. And the reason is, like, if you saw with the Steam Deck is Linux based. Like, first I was a little bit skeptic about the fact, like, okay, yeah, it's going to be a Linux run device. Proton is just like in its child's shoes, as the Dutch call it, like in the kinderschoenen. Let's see how it evolves. Let's see how good the compatibility would be. And lo and behold, the compatibility for Windows games on Linux became insanely well, to the point that I'm playing Sea of Thieves with the buddies on my Steam Deck. Yes, it will eat through my battery, but I don't care. I can play Sea of Thieves with my friends. Why I think that this is like a huge improvement for Linux gaming is that we see the success of Steam Deck. Let's face it, like more and more Windows games will be playable through Proton on Linux computers, not even exclusively for Steam Deck, although there are some versions being developed for games that are running on the Steam Deck. Proton runs also amazing on other computers running Linux. The only caveat is if you have a NVIDIA graphics card, yes, it runs. This is everything said by it, because the performance is absolute dog water, and that is not something on Linux its part. It's unfortunately on NVIDIA. NVIDIA, please solve the drivers and make it good run. Like, I don't even know if it's like a driver related, but like, solve compatibility with Linux. Come on, man. I have a 1070. I need good performance, and I think many others, because like, to give hardware second life through the power of Linux is just amazing. It was this close until my Windows got discontinued. It was this close that my PC would not make it to the transition of Windows 11, and I would have had to swap out my NVIDIA card for an AMD card if it wasn't for the third-party support of NVIDIA on Linux. It is there. It works specially. But back to the fact that support for Linux games is amazing nowadays. We have Proton. We and the majority of the majority of games are running, except for those with kernel level anti-cheat, namely a GTA 5 or something like Rainbow Six Siege. I think it's called differently, but pardon me. And with the Steam machine coming back, out of like Valve's factory or Valve's hands instead of like third parties, I think people will have more. I think people will have more faith in this succeeding than not to shit on ADM, but like on like third party Steam machines, because like, have you seen how great the Steam Deck runs video games through the compatibility layer? Like, people will remember that. And Valve now releasing a dedicated PC that you put under your TV, like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox. Dude, I think it will even become better for those running Linux. Like, honestly, like a game on Linux. And from what I understood, this is going to be having a dedicated GPU, a dedicated CPU for like all sorts of uses. So you can, in technicality, run like your favorite programs on there, like DaVinci Resolve, Krita, GIMP. People use GIMP. People use GIMP. Trust me, I am one of them. It sounds really weird. People are shitting on GIMP. People are so much shitting on GIMP, but actually it's a really powerful tool. But like it's because like, oh, it is the paint of Linux. Use something professional, I guess. I don't know, but you can use your favorite applications on there if it runs, and otherwise you can use them through a compatibility layer like Proton or like Wine. I think Proton is based on Wine, but like if you want to have like a custom experience outside of Proton, you can use Wine, you can use Bottles, Lutris, like you name it, it runs it. Hopefully, because sometimes I still have programs that are quite special. Okay, that are very interesting. But if you do not want to, like, because it's a PC, if you do not want to run SteamOS, you can even install Windows on it. And I think like this will be for a PC a quite affordable system. I think Valve will maybe take a loss on it because they will get back get their losses back in the form of sales on Steam. It's going to rock a semi-custom CPU and GPU from AMD with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 8 gigabytes of GDDR and 8 gigabytes of GDDR 6 VRAM, so video RAM. That will be for the GPU. It will come in two storage options, 512 gigabytes and 2 terabytes, both of them NVMe SSDs, and the storage will be upgradable through the use of a micro SD card slot. If you prefer that, it is one of the easiest ways, but I think also you will, since it has USB ports, you will be able to hook on a USB SSD or HDD. Man, you even can, if you are feeling special, hook on like a USB to SD card adapter, play your games that way. It is all possible. It's a computer. It will of course run SteamOS 3, the operating system that is also available on Steam Deck. And be noted that even though it seems like it is going to be a game-focused console, you can too use your Steam machine like your Steam Deck for desktop use. You can just go out of the overlay of Steam OS and go back into desktop mode or Steam overlay, big picture, whatever you want to call it. Like I said before, you can just, through that, you can run applications like DaVinci Resolve, Krita, GIMP, Firefox, name it, you will be able to run it as long as it runs on Linux. But also, you can use the Heroic Launcher to play your GOG and Epic Games games. So if you saved up a lot of games on Epic Games or GOG through giveaways or for example, your Amazon Prime, you can too play them on this machine. So your experience will be really good. Like some things will not going to work. That's unfortunately the reality, but know that like the majority of your games that you already can play on Windows, you can also play on this machine and your Steam Deck. So hey, that is a win-win. Oh, and the best feature of them all, it has the RPG LED strip for those who want to hold a disco in their house. For the full overview of the specs, these are the specs. Oh, here, there we go. Wall of text. Pause the video if you want to. I hope you're as much excited as me for this Steam machine, and maybe you aren't. Maybe you don't give a damn, and that's also perfectly fine. I honestly cannot wait for like reviews to come in and maybe hold like one of these machines in my own hands. But I think I will stick with my Steam Deck and just, if necessary, stream my games to my Steam Deck when things become way too heavy for it. But for now, everything like throw against the Steam Deck, it just works. But that's not all. That's not all. You see, back in the day, Steam machines came with a Steam controller. As previously shown, a Steam controller had like dual touchpads, a joystick, normal face buttons, but it was, I think, a little bit too different for people. because you use the right touchpad to look around like this. Like you will have your controller and you will be playing like this, where normally the face buttons are, or like the action buttons are. It was an interesting controller. I wish I would have gotten one, but I was too late with getting one because they got discontinued a couple of years back. I believe it was in 2019 that it got discontinued. And it always looked incredibly cool to me, the way it was shaped and the way it approached gaming differently than regular controllers from, for example, Xbox and PlayStation. Nintendo was already innovative enough back in the day with the Wii U and stuff. So yeah, it was basically a different approach at regular controllers. And I was constantly waiting, like, okay, you're going to delist your controller. When are you going to release a new iteration? Because I was super excited to get a Steam controller, especially when it went for like €5 per piece pop, and I couldn't get my hands on it. I couldn't unfortunately get my hands on it, which was super duper unfortunate. And well, I got my answer yesterday. I got my answer yesterday because not only is Valve going to release a Steam machine, no. They are also going to release a new iteration of the Steam controller, baby. And it looks where the Steam controller already looked interesting when it released, like interesting in a way, like, oh man, this is exciting, this is new tech that I want to try out, like I want to feel, but I don't want to necessarily fork up that much cash because like my cash was low back in the day when it released. I had like a I had a pizzeria job. I had a newspaper walk around job, and every little bit of cash it counted, right? But it seemed always really interesting to me, the concept of the Steam controller, that you would use touchpads to control games. But I was so, I don't know, used to finally to joysticks and stuff, that was like, how is this going to benefit me in like video games that I already have trouble with? For example, first person shooters. And the thing was, apparently it worked really, really well. And I had a terrible opinion about whether or not it was going to work. I was, however, very excited at some point to get one. Unfortunately, I never got one because I was too late. Like, they got discontinued. And it looked interesting in a way that it looked very different. And now what I currently see, honestly, is a controller that is super reminiscent of the Steam Deck, but without a screen. If you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. And that is nothing to hate, because it works. It works. I have played on the Steam Deck. I have played on the Steam Deck. I do not use the touchpads, but I get this design because it works on the Steam Deck. And what if we even make it more comfortable, more compact, to use those trackpads, to use the joysticks? It's amazing. I cannot wait, honestly, to get my hands on this controller and see how it works in real time. Because looking at this currently, I am excited. It looks goofy. Yeah, it looks super interesting. I wouldn't have thought that it would be looking like this. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm sounding like an absolute broken record. But this thing, yeah, I wanna try it. I wanna try it. It looks so damn cool. It is made for every game that you will going to play, except for maybe text-based game. But I think Valve will probably solve the thing with that. They will probably implement like a quick keyboard feature, like they have already on like the Steam Deck, and what they had in Big Picture on Steam, that you would like hold your joysticks, whatever, when you are typing, and that you will like quick select letters and stuff. You need to try it out. Who can control it to your Steam? Who can control it to Big Picture? And who can control it to your computer and Big Picture? And try to type something with the controller, because there is still some DNA in there from the old Steam controller, and it's still applicable to whatever controller you are using. It's really interesting how they approach like the way of typing. What I'm also really excited about this controller are two things. One thing was first was like it is going to be shipped with a magnetic charger instead of just a regular cable. From a repair and wear and tear perspective, this is amazing, because I had many phones in the past, many devices with USB-C, wearing and tearing the port that was on my device to the point that it wouldn't make a certain connection like data or charging or even both. And this seems to solve that. Like, you can still replace the cable. As you can see, it's USB-C. If the cable is broken somewhere in the middle, you can just yoink out the USB-C. Don't yoink it out. Don't yoink it out. Be careful with your hardware, but you know what I mean. And replace that USB-C port. But I see like this way of charging is very innovative and very durable when it comes to like your cable wearing and tearing. Like, hopefully you will have to connect that cable once in your controller's lifetime, and otherwise it will have less wear and tear than a regular USB-C connection, which is, hey, Valve, you did it, dude. Let's go repairability, right? What I also was very, very, very excited about is next generation magnetic thumbsticks. For those who do not understand why I'm so excited about the Steam controlling having a magnetic joystick, basically you have like two different kinds of joysticks. Joysticks with a potentiometer and a magnetic joystick or a Hall effect sensor. And to keep it very, very simple, remember like seeing articles about controllers drifting, because like the wear and tear over time with the potentiometer, which is like the little device that makes your thumbstick move. It is less likely to happen with a magnetic or a Hall effect sensor joystick, which is good because it makes it more premium and also very much more durable than your average controller with potentiometers, which is a huge win for consumers that are buying this product, because the longer it lasts, the better for the environment and also the better for your wallet. But also, like, nobody likes broken stuff. Let's just face it, nobody likes broken stuff. And if we can go back to products that are more repairable and more durable, it's a win-win for both consumers and the environment. Let's just face it. And that is so awesome, because I had drifting hardware in the past. It's not fun. It's not fun. And my drifts were mostly because like my Joy-Con, its Bluetooth chip was blocked because I was gripping around it. And remember those things with iPhones that like the iPhone 4, that if you gripped it like in a certain position, like tight, you would lose signal. I had them with Joy-Cons. So this is only good. This is only good, and I'm happy with it. The controller also comes with some extra buttons on the back and those touchpads, which is really, really good, because now you can play almost every game, from a first-person shooter to a real-time strategy game on your computer or Steam machine. Yeah, it's so weird to say. Or maybe Steam Deck. It's so weird to say, like, it because it works. It's not weird to say, because it will work on every computer. But, like, because the subject is like, oh, we are talking Steam machines and Steam controllers and that kind of shit. It's like you want to say Steam Deck. You want to say Steam machine. But this is going to work on every computer running Windows, Linux, and I believe maybe also macOS. But that is to be seen. Maybe I can find something about it, like the support, but for now, it is for Linux and Windows. Yeah, it is for Windows and for Windows and Windows. Yeah. The controller will also come with motion controls, which is great for people that are playing first-person shooters that are coming, for example, from Nintendo Switch, where they're mostly used for games like Splatoon. So basically, there's like a lot of features packed into this controller, and the controller will be released in spring, as well as the Steam Machine will also be released in spring. And last but not least, for VR enthusiasts, there will be a new Valve VR headset named the Valve Frame, a completely wireless experience. The Valve Steam Frame is announced simultaneously with the Steam Machine and the Steam controller, and will be able to run non-VR games and VR games locally, as well as stream to the headset by using a dongle connected to your computer. The reason that it's going to be able to play your games locally is because it's going to run a version of SteamOS on the device itself, because basically you're going to be wearing a full computer on your head. It's going to rock a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chip, which is also to be found in phones, but that does not mean that it cannot run your video games, because it is most likely Valve is going to make a compatibility layer for ARM-based chips, which also make it possible for ARM-based devices to later play video games on them. It's also going to be rocking 16GB of RAM, as well as a storage capacity of 256 to 1 terabyte of storage. Molly. And the storage is also upgradable with a micro SD card once again. So hey, if you are lacking, so when you're lacking like space for your Call of Duty, which is like nowadays like what, 400 gigabytes or something, you too can expand the storage on the device. It comes also with a screen that can reach the maximum of 144 Hz, but be noted that 144 Hz is pretty much experimental. The Valve Frame will also come with 2 controllers, which make use of AA batteries, but you can always replace them with rechargeable AA batteries. And it will also have the magnetic joysticks that are to be found on the Steam controller. And like the headset are not dependable anymore on the external lighthouse system, which is also a win-win for like people with smaller rooms. I think this is also going to be a huge competitor to the Meta Quest 3 or the Oculus Quest 3. I have no clue like what is the name. Basically, Facebook's alternative to it, and it's going to be interesting how this is going to unfold, because to me this seems like the better option. And it's not because I hate the Quest 3 that much. I think this is genuinely a better alternative, because this is like oriented towards the actual VR experiences that you and I are most likely thinking of when we are speaking about VR, like video games, VR chat, your daily grind on Beat Saber. And looking at this is more focused on like that will for those experiences rather than like a social thing or anything like that. And what I think, in my opinion, is that this is not necessarily going to compete with like the PlayStation VR 2, but rather with the Meta Quest 3, since both of the headsets will be standalone, both of the headsets will be wireless, since like the Steam Frame has the support of Valve and has the Steam storefront as a backbone of the entire device. Because like if you had already video games on Steam or experiences on Steam that were meant for VR, you can it is directly compatible with it. And also, if you are playing non-VR games like mentioned before, you can play them perfectly fine if everything goes well natively on the device. And if it doesn't work natively, you can directly stream them from your computer that is running Steam. So like hundreds of thousands of experiences will be available for the thing. So when they are going to launch the Frame, they don't have to wait for developers. The developers are already on Steam, one of the biggest platforms for video games. And to be honest, the platform what has like a huge backwards compatibility when it comes to all the VR titles. It will most likely just work with the Frame. Like if the Frame works like any other VR headset that came before, the Vive and the Index from Valve. But basically, if it works like every other VR headset, it is going to be an insane deal. In my opinion, I would rather choose for like this device than the Meta Quest, because like the support is already there, and I have probably games that are compatible in VR mode. All of the hardware that is announced yesterday will release in 2026, spring to be exact. But I think the Steam machine will be around 600-700 euros, given that Valve will most likely take a small loss on the hardware, or maybe a big loss on the hardware that will be paying itself back through the sales on Steam. And the Steam controller will most likely ship for like 60 or 70 euros or dollars, whatever you want to call it, depending on like your own currency. It will be around 60 or 70 because of all the features that are packed in there. Maybe it will be 80, who knows? But I think it will be around that price range. Especially the Steam machine, I think they will take a loss on it because they can easily earn it back through the Steam store and this other sales like the Steam controller and maybe even the Steam Deck, because you want to take your games on the go. Like, that will also be an interesting thing. You will be able to have your Steam machine to start it on there, like your game session on there, and then bring it later on with your Steam Deck on the go. You have like two dedicated devices. Me personally, I often just game on my Steam Deck and bring my Steam Deck with me, and most of the time it's like single player games that will be on the Steam Deck, and when I come home I plug it like the Switch in the dock. But I can see it happen that people who are already on the Steam Deck will also get a Steam machine for under their television, play it there when they want to have the nicer graphics, and the moment that they want on the go, they just like cloud save their stuff to the cloud and take it with them with the Steam Deck. Of course, you need to update like the cloud storage, but I see that happening. And when it comes to the Steam frame, I think this will be people's, like, our gamers, if Valve executes it well when it comes to pricing. I think it's still going to be quite an expensive device. It's probably going to be around 900 euros or maybe less. I hope it's less because I want to get my hands on it. But I think I will assume that it will be 900 euros, 800 euros. But I think it's going to be people's very first VR headset, because there is already such a backlog of VR games that are constantly also going on sale. So that will be also women. But like it is a VR headset with already a backlog that is already there. But also it's a VR headset that doesn't require a lot of setup when it comes to the hardware, like the lighthouse system, the cables, the converter box, or maybe they already changed it with the index that you only have one cable that goes into your computer. I have no clue. I don't own one. But I like to assume that because of those reasons, the ease of use, the system that is already on there, because you're literally wearing a computer that can run both non-VR and VR games on the damn system. I think this is going to be one of the most well-sold VR headsets out there. People will finally tune into it because of the convenience, and I think that is going to succeed. And otherwise, it is a really cool piece of hardware that I like to touch my hands, like pat my hands on and put it on there and like try it out for myself. I am an early adopter of VR. I had the PSVR headset and the first version with all the caveats from being an early adopter, because like I had like a drifting headset and stuff, and yeah, it was an interesting way to play VR. It worked, but like the PlayStation Move controllers, the headset, it was all light based, so you had to dim the room. You had to do this specifically. And there's a reason that I don't use it very often, and that's because of the setup that it requires. And to see the Steam frame being so easy to use, I think that for many people it will be a good first VR experience. Like, VR has evolved so much. It has matured so much. Look at where we are right now, from like wearing those big ski goggles to a little bit lesser big, a little bit smaller skiing goggles, but still skiing goggles. We got a well damn system in it now that runs our VR games. And the only thing that I am interested in is how are we going to do hand gestures? Will we still be able to do hand gestures? I have no clue. I didn't saw anything of it, like was scrolling quickly through it. Maybe it will be revealed in like a separate like video. But for now, yeah, maybe it's through the lenses themselves that you will have hand gestures, because some games will have like the hand gestures and stuff.
Hi, this is me on a lovely headset microphone. It sounds lovely, right? Anyway, a couple of seconds ago, you could see in fact that the controller is including capacitive touch sensors. And according to an IGN article, these sensors are in fact capable of tracking your fingers and hands. And so yeah, my bad. I apologize. I didn't know that these sensors could track your hands and fingers. Anyway, back to the video.
All in all, super excited. Again, these hardware, the hardware will be released in spring 2026. I have no clue by then if I will get the Steam controller or like, I will most likely not get the Steam frame because let's face it, that is for me the controller is easier to get currently. But I will be very much excited for the Steam frame and the Steam machine because damn dude, guys, we are back. And honestly, a little side note on the end of the video, I sound like such a Linux fanboy, but it can be stoned for me what OS I'm running. I have both a MacBook, I run Windows for my streams, and I run Linux on the side when I want to separate my streaming things, my YouTube things from actually having fun and private stuff. Let's just say it. Let's just become clear. I am not a fanboy. I think competition is really, really good. And I think my opinion about that we have more competition and more platforms to play games on is really good so that we have choice in what we use and what we want to use. Like the more the merrier. I think that shitting on people for like using a specific operating system is not good. Every operating system has its own use. Like I prefer Linux and Mac OS. I prefer Linux for like my daily use and that kind of stuff. Mac OS for editing on the go, and Windows because my capture card requires Windows. That's the only reason that I use Windows and for Overwatch. But it doesn't matter what people will run on the computer as long as it suits their needs. I think it's only really cool. Like I'm really hyped about the fact that Linux gaming becomes bigger because then people have a choice whether to use Windows or Linux for the games. And I think that how more platforms to be playing games upon on the PC, the better. Like I'm even rooting for like games coming to Mac OS, man. It's like it doesn't matter what kind of operating system someone is using, as long as it is the one that they like to work with, and also the one that is working for them and for their needs. So please, if you are a fan of Linux, if you are a Linux fanboy, or if you're a Windows head or like a Mac user, guys, don't hate on each other. Have a little bit of banter, but don't really like go fisting cuffs and everything. On what people use. Like it's all about like the consumer being given more options to do their favorite hobby. And with that said, thank you so much for watching to this video. Long story short, when I saw this yesterday, when I wanted to make a video about it, I thought, oh my god, this is so amazing. Like I was hyping it in people's like I was hyping it in Discords, like, hey dude, guys, the Steam machine is so fucking back, dude. It's like, oh yeah, and like everybody was like rooting for it because like all my friends are huge huge hardware heads. This is just like a win for people that use Linux, but it's also a win for VR users and people that want just a different playing experience for their controllers, like want to play their real-time strategy games like a mouse on the couch. And I think that is worth very much celebrating, and I hope you are as much excited as I am. And I will probably talk about it more on stream. I will be streaming every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, 1 p.m. Amsterdam time. Might be changing schedule, but as of now, as of this time of this video, I will be streaming around these times on twitch.tv/Yappin, and I will probably discuss more and more about the Steam hardware and probably fanboy about it, because honestly, this has been the most this has been the most exciting that I have been about new hardware dropping like a fucking nuke in a very, very long time. And the last time it was like with the Valve Steam, ironically with the Valve Steam Deck. I mean, it was hyped for I was hyped for the Nintendo Switch too, but I was, I think, more hyped for the Valve Steam Deck being a thing. It is really cool what Valve is currently doing, and I want more unique hardware like this, dude. I want more unique hardware that benefit people and that make games fun. That make games fun again. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I will be streaming every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, 1 p.m. Amsterdam time on twitch.tv/Sessionbone. I will be doing some gaming, and we'll be doing some yapping, and I will be doing maybe some cooking. Who knows? Otherwise, I will announce it somewhere, probably on like Blue Sky or some social media doom scrolling thing. Okay. Hey, thank you for watching. Have a great one. Bye-bye.